Learning how to communicate more effectively is one of the most important life skills you can have. Warren Buffett was quoted saying, if you cannot communicate and talk to other people, you are giving up on your potential. Imagine standing up on the first day of work in front of the entire office. You know that they're going to ask you for a fun fact, and you're nervous. Why is that? It's enormously important to be able to communicate in those moments. They say that 55% of communication aren't even the words being said. It's nonverbals. 38% is the tone, pitch, and inflection. Meanwhile, 7% is the actual words you share. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to communicate more effectively based on the lessons I've learned from How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read multiple times over, and also Speak as Well as You Think. It's an executive public speaking book, body language, posture, tone, pitch, inflection, everything you need to know. Communication principle number 1 is active listening, ensuring the other person actually feels heard. One of Oprah's key strengths, if you've ever watched her shows or followed her success, it's her ability to read the other person between the lines, what they're saying, what they're not saying, and make the other person feel comfortable by actively retaining and acknowledging the information they are sharing so the other person feels heard, so that they feel more comfortable and they trust her and they share all these great stories that otherwise never would have been shared. Active listening is of paramount importance in your relationships, so there's no misconfusion. A lot of arguments lead to, hey, I don't feel heard, hey, you don't understand where I'm coming from, etc., etc. But for the salespeople out there, which is the majority of you who watch this channel, I think the active listening principle is one of the most important things you can do in sales, because when you are listening to the prospect or customer, you need to understand where are the pain points, how are you going to build value, what is going on with their business, what does this person actually care about, and a few strategies that you can use today that are actually pretty easy to do to show that you're active listening. Number 1, repeat the words that the other person is saying. So when the other person says, yeah, this weekend I went down to the river and I was doing some fishing, and you say, the river? And they'll say, yeah, it's one of my favorite rivers. It's a spot we always go. We catch a lot of fish, and I have a lot of great memories back there. Memories? And they say, yeah, the memories, when I was a child. So when you hear a key word in the statement that they said, repeat that key word. Just pause for a moment and say, the river? And they'll say, yeah, and because they'll acknowledge in their head, they'll say, oh, they listened to me. They heard one of the key words, and then they'll further expand on that point. The next level of skill is to paraphrase and repeat back what the other person said and insinuate that you understand the meaning. And in practice, this looks like the prospect telling you, yeah, so our process today is really slow. We had to hire an entirely new employee just to do this administratively burdenous process, and it's just super inefficient. So you would respond back and says, it seems that your process could be improved. As a result of the slow process, you're probably wasting a lot of time and losing a lot of money. So phrases you can use are, it seems like, it sounds like, you mentioned that. So whenever the person says something to you like, oh, I just had such a tough day today, I lost this big deal, it seems like you're disappointed. And you could just leave it at that, as simple as that. And that's an example of active listening. It's acknowledging that you heard the person, and it's also empathizing with them, that you feel that the emotion that they are feeling. And you can use phrases such as, it seems like, it sounds like, you mentioned that. And a phrase that I like to use to insinuate active listening is the prospect will say, yeah, we just hired this new leader and they have these new initiatives. And you say, tell me more about the initiatives that your new leader cares about. And it shows that you are listening to them, and it will take your communication to the next level. The next communication topic I want to talk about is responding to others. You have listened, you have understood, now it's time to be heard with you actually responding and talking to people. And when we say responding to others, I mean pitch, tone, inflection, pace, pauses. And this is something that doesn't always come natural to people, because some people just have a monotone voice. Some people like to talk really fast, like a used car salesman, like I did early on in my career. It's all about being authentic to you and talking how you do, but you can begin to improve on your communication by understanding how to use pitch, tone, and inflection, and also when the other person does it as well, because maybe the person's voice starts to get really high because they start to get excited, or you start to get on the phone and you decrease your tone and you say, yeah, would you like to set up a meeting with me? And it's really interesting. I read the book, Never Split the Difference, and Chris Voss talks about when he's negotiating, he uses tone, pitch, and inflection, and he actually uses a downward inflection when making asks, because for some reason, the way it resonates in the human brain, it just sticks to them, it hears it. Especially when you're making cold calls, it doesn't matter so much what you say, it's how you say it. And I never understood that until I made 47,000 cold calls, and I started to realize that based on the way I carry the conversation, that is how it's perceived in the other person's head. So my excitement, my genuine curiosity asking them questions, the way I respond, the way I carry myself, they pick up on that. And it's almost like we're doing a race together. So I can bring them on my wavelength just by changing my pitch, tone, and inflection. And it's something that you subtly will start to pick up on. And you can also start to read it in other people based on how they respond, based on how they're talking. You can quickly pick up on maybe something is going on with them. Maybe they're not having a good day. It's something that you need to be mindful of, not only in others, but in yourself as well. And a communication principle that we need to acknowledge here is never criticize, condemn, or complain to other people. This is one of the first lessons you learn in how to win friends and influence people. It's never criticize, condemn, or complain to other people. I wanted to repeat it so that you definitely got it. And that's another way to communicate. When you repeat things, that's how you know it's important. So it is really important. Take, for example, when somebody messes up. Do you say, "You're so stupid, you messed everything up"? And something I lapsed on yesterday, my legal team, I was waiting on red lines to get back, and I typed up an email because I got super impatient, and I basically was trying to accelerate the process unnaturally. And I don't want to say I necessarily criticized them, but it made them feel disrespected or not as important, and they ended up taking longer than it should have because of my impatience there. Anytime somebody does something, even if they mess up, acknowledge it, but try and compliment them, try and uplift them. It never is going to be good to criticize people or tell them why they're not good enough at something, because everybody wants to feel special. Everyone wants to hear their name. Everyone wants to be acknowledged. Nobody wants to be thought of as somebody that I don't like anymore or somebody that is a quitter. You want to lift people up, so go out of your way to acknowledge them and bring them up and fight that instinct to try and tear them down, because that will make you feel better in that immediate moment, but it will stick with them and they will remember how you made them feel. So it's so important to uplift people, because ultimately people will forget what you say, people will forget what you did, people will never forget how you made them feel. And the way you respond to others is how you create that lasting feeling of, I want you to feel special because I care about you. The final communication topic that I want to talk to you today about is body language. And a bonus tip I want to share before we get into that is one of the post-it notes that I marked in Speak As Well As You Think, and it's mastery of the pause. Give speaker time to think, audience time to absorb. Eye contact with listeners boosts credibility. And those are two tips that I picked up on. The pause is so important because when you're nervous, when you don't feel prepared, you talk fast. And when you're not pausing, you run out of breath, you seem rushed. And the audience may not feel like they are understanding the information because you're already on to the next topic. I think that this is something I still struggle with. So just a helpful reminder to say pausing is really important. And it's better to take the pause after you've made a good point, not just middle of the sentence. When we think about body language, I want to break it down between video communication, because so many of us are working remote and we're working behind screens, desktops, and then also in-person communication. The one constant between both is eye contact. That's what we just covered on. When you are doing video communication, something to keep in mind is if you have multiple monitors like I do, if you are looking at your demo screen right here, and then your actual camera's over here and you're facing the wrong way, I would consider you to adjust that, because the person, you want them to feel like you are looking them in the eyes. You're not looking this way, you're not looking that way. I know that your screen setup may not permit it, but it's something you need to work on. And then in person, eye contact is something I used to be terrible at. I remember in middle school, my girl teacher came up to me. She's like, "Trent, you never retain eye contact. Stare at me in the eyes." And I never would be able to do it. It's almost like me looking into the camera. I feel like I'm piercing your soul looking through the camera lens right now, but I still look off and veer into the distance sometimes. When you are truly looking in someone's eyes, you almost get a portal into who they are as a person. I remember a really fun exercise I did in a class one time was our teacher said, "Hey, find a partner next to you and then stare into their eyes. And we did it for like a minute straight. And by the end of it, you felt like you knew the person, even if you didn't really know them. So that is principle number one. Eye contact, super important. Video and in person, really great. When we think about body language, it's your posture. So are you sitting up straight? And it's how you use your hands and how you carry yourself. My hands, the feedback I got early in my YouTube career was, Trent, you're super handsy. You like to move a lot. I still like to talk with my hands. So it's something I need to be mindful of. And one of the tips they share in the book is think of like in baseball, the batter's box or the strike zone box. You have a box when you are communicating. You want to be loose, you want to be free, but you want to imagine that you are in a box. And when you're talking, you don't want your fingers to be all out like this, and something I still struggle with. You want to be in tight, and you want to have your hands like this, or like this, like making points like this. And you want to keep your hands in the box, and you don't want to be robotic, but you also want to be fluid and not moving your arms above or below or outside the box. It's really important to keep it like that, because when you are public speaking, the better you carry yourself on stage, the better people see how you're moving. It plays a really important role in the actual communication. And something I do want to share now, speaking of public speaking, I'd imagine it makes many of you very nervous. It still makes me nervous to this day. In college, I did a speech to over 200 people, and I was never nervous before anything in my life, and I actually over-prepared, and I don't think it helped me very much. When you get on stage, the reason you're so afraid leading up to that moment is we naturally as humans are evolutionary programmed to fight or flight, for survival. And when we are exposed in front of large audiences of people, it triggers that fight or flight in our amygdala of you are in danger, escape now. So you feel that feeling of I need to get off here. All these people are looking at me. And it leads to that feeling of just despair, and so many people want to avoid it. It starts to get in your body, it gets in your throat, and you feel like you can't even talk. Next time you get nervous before speaking, one trick you can do is blow onto your thumb. It helps you breathe deep, and I'm not sure if it actually does anything psychologically, but I read once that by applying cool pressure to your thumb, it does something to your nervous system and it cools you down. So just take a deep breath and blow on your thumb, and it will make you feel better. The final point I'll add on body language is go watch the executives or entrepreneurs or business people you look up to. Go watch them in interviews and watch how they communicate, watch how they move, watch where their eyes go, watch what their posture is, watch what their hands, feet, legs, arms do. And if you watch enough video of people you respect and admire, you can start to pick up on what they do and implement it in your own practice. Through watching executives, I see how they sit like this and they talk like this when they're making points. They're very direct, they're very to the point, and the way they carry themselves is with an air of confidence. Every room they enter, they add value to. Whether you're a guy or girl, you are the man. We're all the man. Walk into every room and say, I'm the man. Keep your head up, shoulders back, and if you walk with a purpose, if you talk with a purpose, it will resonate with people, and ultimately just be yourself. Everyone is a person. Everyone wants to feel special. Everyone wants to be heard. So give other people that feeling of feeling special, and it will lead to better communication. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button now. It really helps the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Click on the first link in the description below to Sales Prestige Podcast. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.